Emergency roadside calls pay double after 5 p.m. Good money, easy work, except when the truck you're supposed to fix is still running, and the driver who called you in isn't anywhere near human. My name's Greg Hollister, and I've been wrenching on diesel trucks for 16 years. Started at my old man's shop in Salmon, Idaho when I was 18. Took it over when he retired 5 years back. We specialize in heavy equipment, logging trucks, construction rigs, the big boys that keep the backcountry operations running. And part of that work means emergency calls. Breakdowns happen, transmissions blow, hydraulic lines snap. When you're 40 miles deep on a Forest Service road with a full load of timber and the sun's going down, you need someone who'll come get you running again. That's me. That's what I do. Or that's what I did. Before October 19th, 2023, it was a Thursday. I remember, because Thursdays are usually slow. It gives me time to catch up on paperwork, inventory, the boring stuff that keeps the business running. Shop closes at 5 p.m. sharp on Thursdays. I'd already sent my part-timer, Jake, home around 4, told him I'd lock up. I was in the office going through invoices when my cell phone rang at exactly 4:37 p.m. Didn't recognize the number, but it had a local area code. Hollister Diesel and Repair. I answered, already reaching for a pen. Yeah, hey, this is Randy Kimball, the voice said. It sounded stressed, tired. I got a logging truck down on Forest Service Road 308, about mile marker 32. Transmission's making a hell of a noise and now she won't shift out of third. Can you come take a look? I pulled up my mental map of the area. Forest Service Road 308 runs northeast out of Salmon toward the Bitterroot Range, follows the Lemhi River for a bit before cutting into heavy timber country. Mile marker 32 would put him, about 43 miles from my shop. No cell service past mile marker 12. Road gets rough past 20. I've been out there maybe a dozen times over the years. Remote as hell, but the logging companies use it because it cuts 20 miles off the haul to the mill. What kind of rig, I asked. Kenworth T 800 2019. She's got the fuller 18 speed. I knew that transmission. Common issue with the shift fork if you're heavy-footed. Probably not catastrophic, but definitely not something you could limp home on. Alright, I said, already making a list in my head of what I'd need. I can be there in about an hour and a half. You got flares out? Yeah. I pulled off on a wide spot, got my 4-ways on, plenty of room for you to work. Good. Sit tight, I'm on my way. I hung up and checked the time. 4:41 p.m. Sunset was at 6:03 p.m. according to my weather app. If I left right now, I'd get there around 6, maybe 6:15 with the rough road, cutting it close, but I'd have work lights. I've done plenty of jobs in the dark. Wasn't ideal, but it's part of the business. The money helped too. Emergency calls after 5 p.m. are $200 an hour, 2-hour minimum, plus parts. Randy would be looking at maybe $500 easy. For me, that's 2 truck payments. So yeah, I took the call. I loaded up my service truck, 2022 Ford 550 with a utility bed, loaded with everything I might need. I grabbed my heavy toolbox, the 40-pound snap-on roller that's got everything from metric sockets to bearing pullers. Threw in a case of transmission fluid, just in case. Hydraulic jack rated for 20 tons. Jack stands. My generator. The Honda 3000 watt that'll run my work lights and impact tools. Speaking of which, I loaded the LED light tower, the one with 4 adjustable heads that puts out about 12,000 lumens total, enough to turn night into noon in a 30-foot radius. I grabbed my headlamp, the Petzl with the red night vision setting, threw in a couple of road flares, the 30-minute kind, tossed my insulated coveralls in the cab, because it gets cold quick up in those hills once the sun drops. Filled my thermos with coffee, grabbed my paper map of the Salmon Chalice National Forest from the glove box, and checked my first aid kit. Last thing I grabbed was my bear spray. Not because I'm paranoid, but because black bears are common up there, and a guy working under a truck with his head in an engine compartment makes for an easy surprise. I've never had to use it, but it sits in a holster on my belt on every backcountry call. 4:58 p.m. I locked up the shop, hung the closed emergency call sign on the door, and headed out. The drive out to Forest Service Road 308 is pretty straightforward for the first 20 miles. You take Highway 93 north out of Salmon, good 2-lane blacktop with light traffic this time of day. The Lemmy River runs parallel to the road, cold and fast this time of year with snow melt from the peaks. You can see the Bitterroots rising up to the east, already dusted with early snow above 8,000 feet. Beautiful country. The kind of country that reminds you why you live in Idaho instead of someplace flat and boring. I turned onto Forest Service Road 308 at 5:21 p.m. This is where the pavement ends and the real road begins. It's graded gravel, maintained by the Forest Service, but only just barely wide enough for 2 trucks to pass if you're careful. But it's got potholes, washboard sections, and blind curves. Speed limit's technically 25, but most folks do 15 and call it good. Cell service dropped out completely around mile marker 11, just like I knew it would. No big deal. I had the paper map, I knew where I was going, and I told my girlfriend Sarah I'd be back around 8 or 9 p.m. She's used to it, comes with the territory when you're dating a mechanic. The road climbed steadily, winding through dense pine and fir forest. Shadows getting longer now. That golden hour light filtering through the trees at sharp angles. I passed mile marker 15, 20, 25. Road was getting rougher, more ruts from logging trucks. I dropped down to 10 miles an hour in a couple spots where erosion had chewed up the surface. At mile marker 30, I started watching for the wide spot Randy mentioned. Should be coming up any second now, and there it was. I came around a curve and saw the Kenworth sitting on the shoulder, pulled off onto a flat area where the road widened out. Big rig, probably 40-foot trailer, stacked with pine logs, easily 60,000 pounds loaded, 4 ways blinking in the fading light, driver's side door hanging open. I checked my watch, 6:09 p.m., sunset in about 5 minutes, maybe less, with the tree cover. I pulled up behind the Kenworth, leaving about 20 feet of space, and put my truck in park. Left the engine running and the headlights on. First thing I noticed was the smell. Not diesel, not hydraulic fluid, nothing mechanical, something organic, like wet fur and copper and something else I couldn't place. Decay? Maybe. Hard to say. I grabbed my headlamp, clipped it on, and stepped out of the truck. "Randy?" I called out. "Randy Kimball?" No answer. The forest was quiet. I mean, really quiet. No birds, no squirrels, no wind. Just the idle of my truck and the clicking of the Kenworth's 4 ways. That wasn't normal. These woods are usually full of sound, even at dusk. But right now, nothing. I walked up to the Kenworth's cab. Driver's door still open, interior light on. I looked inside. Keys in the ignition, phone sitting on the passenger seat, screen dark, wallet in the cup holder, couple of credit cards visible, coffee mug in the holder, still half full, still warm when I touched it. A Carhartt jacket hung on the back of the seat, but no Randy. "Randy!" I called again, louder this time. "You out here?" Nothing. I walked around to the passenger side of the truck, checking the ground. No signs of disturbance, no blood, no indication of violence. The trailer looked secure, load straps tight. I checked the transmission, popped the inspection plate on the side of the Fuller gearbox. Didn't smell burnt, no metal shavings visible in the fluid. Honestly, the transmission looked fine. Whatever Randy thought was wrong with it, I wasn't seeing it on a visual inspection. I walked back toward the front of the truck, and that's when I saw the footprints. Boot prints, definitely men's size 10 or 11, work boots with a deep tread, leading from the driver's side door across the gravel shoulder toward the tree line. I followed them with my eyes, and they were clear as day for about 15 feet, and then they stopped. Not like he turned around, not like he stepped onto rock or hard ground. They just ended right there in the middle of soft dirt, like Randy had been walking, and then just ceased to exist mid-stride. But there was a second set of prints continuing on. Same boots, same size, same tread pattern. But the stride was wrong. Too long. Like whoever was wearing those boots had legs about 6 inches longer than they should have been. The prints continued into the tree line, spacing too wide, gait too stretched out. I felt something cold settle into my stomach. "Randy?" I called one more time, not expecting an answer now. The forest stayed silent. I checked my watch. 6:17 p.m. Fully dark now under the canopy, just that deep blue twilight filtering through. I pulled out my phone, confirmed what I already knew. No signal. Not even emergency only. I was 43 miles from town with no way to call for help and a missing driver. I made a decision. Professional decision, practical decision. Randy probably stepped into the woods to take a leak, maybe got disoriented, maybe twisted an ankle. Could be 30 feet away, sitting against a tree, waiting for me to find him. I'd set up my work lights, get the whole area illuminated, do a quick search of the immediate perimeter. If I didn't find him in 15 minutes, I'd drive back to cell range and call the sheriff. I went back to my service truck and started unloading generator first. Set it on the ground about 10 feet from the Kenworth light tower next. Extended it up to full height, 8 feet of telescoping aluminum with 4 LED heads. Ran the extension cord from the generator to the lights, primed the Honda's carburetor, and pulled the starter cord. The generator caught on the second pull, settled into a smooth idle. I flipped the switch on the light tower. 12,000 lumens flooded the area, turning the clearing into daylight. Harsh white light, the kind that makes everything look washed out and flat but shows every detail. The Kenworth, my truck, the tree line, all of it suddenly visible like it was noon. And the footprints, I could see them perfectly now. Randy's prints leading toward the trees, stopping. The second set continuing on, that wrong stride, disappearing into the darkness between the pines. "Randy!" I shouted into the trees. "If you can hear me, I've got lights set up. Follow the light back." I stood there listening for maybe 30 seconds, and then I heard footsteps, gravel crunching, boot heels on stone, coming from the tree line, from the direction those second prints had gone. "Randy? That you?" I called. The footsteps stopped. I waited, stared into the trees beyond the light's reach. Couldn't see anything, just darkness and the silhouettes of tree trunks. "Randy?" Nothing. I turned back to the Kenworth, figuring maybe I'd misheard. Maybe it was just the generator's vibration making gravel settle. I grabbed my toolbox from the truck, rolled it over to the passenger side of the cab where the transmission access panel was. Might as well do what I came here to do. When Randy showed up, at least I'd have a diagnostic started. I was crouched down, opening the toolbox, when I heard my own voice. "Greg." It came from the tree line, clear as day. Same tone, same inflection I use when I'm asking a question. "Greg, need help with something." That was my voice, coming from the darkness under the trees. I stood up slowly, hand instinctively going to the bear spray on my belt. "Who's out there?" My actual voice now, and I could hear the edge in it. The forest stayed quiet for a moment, and then I heard Randy's voice, at least I assumed it was Randy. Deep, kind of raspy, with a rural Idaho accent. "Greg, over here. Man, I think I'm lost." The voice came from deeper in the woods, maybe 50 yards out. I grabbed my flashlight from my belt, the big mag light that puts out about 1,000 lumens, and pointed it toward the sound. The beam cut through the dark, illuminating tree trunks, undergrowth, but no person. "Randy, stay where you are. I'm coming to you." "I can't see the lights anymore," Randy's voice called back. I'm all turned around. I started walking toward the voice, flashlight beam sweeping side to side. I passed a tree line, boots crunching on dead pine needles, and that organic smell hit me again. Stronger now. Wet fur, copper, rot, like something died out here a week ago. "Keep talking, Randy," I called. "I'm following your voice." "I'm right here," his voice responded. "Can't you see me?" The voice was moving. I'd swear it. Started out ahead of me, now it was off to my right. I adjusted course, kept walking, flashlight searching. "Greg, over here." Now it was behind me. I spun around, and that's when my brain caught up with what my gut already knew. The voice wasn't moving like a person moves. It wasn't staying in one spot or walking in a consistent direction. It was jumping, appearing in different locations, like it was coming from multiple sources or something that could move faster than any human should. And it wasn't calling for help. It was leading me away from the light. I looked back toward the clearing. The work lights were still visible, but fainter now, filtered through maybe 40 yards of trees. I had walked farther than I'd realized, following that voice in circles. "Greg," Randy's voice again. Closer now, right behind me. "Can you see me?" "I can see your light." But when I spun around, flashlight pointing directly at where the voice came from, there was nothing there. Just trees, just darkness beyond my being. And then I heard my own voice again. Closer this time, maybe 10 feet to my left. What the hell is going on? That's exactly what I'd been thinking. Exactly the words, exactly the confused tone. I didn't wait around to hear what else it might say. I ran, straight back toward the work lights, flashlight bouncing wildly, branches whipping at my face and coveralls. I could hear footsteps behind me. No. Beside me. No. Ahead of me. I couldn't tell. They seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, keeping pace no matter how fast I moved. I burst out of the tree line, back into the clearing, the generator's steady hum and the bright wash of LED light like a physical barrier between me and whatever was in those woods. I stumbled to a stop next to my service truck, breathing hard, and looked back at the trees. Nothing. No movement, no sounds except my own ragged breathing and the generator. But I felt, watched. That primitive hindbrain instinct, the one that kept our ancestors alive on the savannah, was screaming at me that something was out there in the dark, just beyond the light, and it was very interested in me. I stayed by my truck for what felt like 10 minutes, but was probably only 2 or 3, watching the tree line, hand on my bear spray. Nothing moved. The forest stayed silent. Then I heard the gravel crunch behind me, near the Kenworth. I spun around, and my flashlight beam caught a figure standing on the opposite side of Randy's truck, half visible behind the trailer, wearing Randy's high-vis vest. Same build, maybe 6 feet tall, broad shoulders, ball cap pulled low. "Randy." My voice came out steadier than I felt. The figure didn't respond, just stood there, perfectly still, lit from the side by my work lights. Something about the posture was wrong. Too straight, too rigid, like someone trying very hard to stand like a person. I took a step closer, moving around the front of the Kenworth to get a better angle. The figure moved too, staying on the opposite side of the truck, maintaining the same distance, mirroring me. "Randy, you alright, man?" I called. "You had me worried." No response. But it tilted its head, and that's when I saw the face clearly for the first time. It was Randy's face. Had to be. Same beard, Same weathered skin, same features, but something was wrong with it. The proportions were slightly off. Eyes a little too far apart, mouth a little too wide, like someone had described Randy's face to an artist who'd never actually seen him, and the artist had gotten it 95% right. Close, but not close enough. And the skin, the skin looked tight, stretched, like a mask pulled too taut over something that didn't quite fit underneath. Help me fix the truck, Greg. The voice came from its mouth, but the lips didn't move right, like watching a badly dubbed foreign film where the dialogue doesn't match the actor's mouth movements. The words were Randy's voice, the accent, the tone, but they were arriving a half-second late. I took a step backward, slowly, keeping my eyes on it. It mimicked my movement perfectly, stepping backward at the same time, same speed. I said, "Help me fix the truck," it repeated, and this time I could see that its mouth didn't move at all. The voice just came from it. My hand found the door handle of my service truck behind me. I pulled it open slowly, never taking my eyes off the figure. It watched me, didn't move closer, didn't move away, just watched with eyes that caught the LED light and reflected it back too bright, too yellow, like an animal's eyes in headlights. I climbed into the driver's seat, pulled the door closed, and locked it. All the doors, pressed every lock button twice, heard the chunking sound of the mechanisms engaging. The figure walked around the front of the Kenworth, moving into the full glare of the work lights now, and I got my first clear look at the whole thing. Arms too long. That was the first detail my brain registered. Arms hanging down past where they should stop, hands reaching almost to its knees, fingers too thin, too many joints. The high-vis vest Randy had been wearing didn't fit right, stretched across shoulders that were too wide, too angular, and the way it moved. Not smooth like a person walks, but jerky. Stop motion, like it had to think about each movement before executing it. It walked to the driver's side of my truck and stopped about 10 feet away, just standing there in the headlight beams, staring at me through the windshield. I stared back, hand on the key in the ignition, ready to start the engine and get the hell out of there. We stayed like that for what felt like 20 minutes, but was probably only 5. It just stood there, motionless, lit up like a specimen under examination. I could see every detail. The way its chest didn't rise and fall with breath, the way its eyes didn't blink, the way its head was tilted just slightly wrong, like its neck had an extra vertebra or the skull was balanced on the spine at the wrong angle. Then I heard tapping on my driver's side window. Slow, deliberate. Tap, tap, tap. I turned my head, already knowing what I'd see but hoping I was wrong. Another figure pressed against the window glass, inches from my face. This one was wearing my face, not similar to my face. My face. Exact copy. Same scar on my left eyebrow from where I caught a wrench when I was 23. Same slightly crooked nose from a high school football injury. Same 2-day stubble. Same tired eyes. Same everything. It smiled at me. Wide. Too wide. The smile stretched past where it should stop, almost to the ears, showing too many teeth. And then it whispered, breath fogging the glass, "Let me in. It's cold out here." My hand turned the key without conscious thought, pure survival instinct taking over. The engine started, and I slammed the transmission into reverse. Both figures watched me. They didn't chase, didn't react beyond tracking me with their heads as I backed away. The one with my face stayed by the window line for a moment, then turned and walked calmly toward the one wearing Randy's appearance. They stood together now, side by side in the pool of LED light from the work tower, perfectly still, watching me roll backward down Forest Service Road 308. I kept reversing for what must have been a quarter mile, couldn't take my eyes off them in the rearview mirror. They stayed right there, standing in the circle of light, two silhouettes getting smaller as I put distance between us. Not following, not chasing, just watching. When I finally lost sight of them around a curve, I stopped, caught my breath, and realized my hands were shaking on the steering wheel. I put the truck in drive and continued down the mountain at about 30 miles an hour, faster than safe, but I didn't care. The drive back felt twice as long as the drive out. Every shadow between the trees looked like a figure. Every curve I expected to see something standing in the road, but I made it back to mile marker 12, to where cell service returned, and I pulled over onto the shoulder. My phone came back to life, 3 bars, and I immediately called the Lemhi County Sheriff's Office. Sheriff's Office, this is Deputy Marchand. Yeah, hi, this is Greg Hollister. I'm a mechanic out of Salmon. I need to report a missing person and a suspicious incident on Forest Service Road 308. What's the nature of the incident, sir? I tried to figure out how to explain what I'd seen without sounding insane. I got called out for a breakdown logging truck at mile marker 32. Driver's missing, truck's abandoned, keys still in it, but there's someone at the scene. Multiple people. They're not right. Not right how, sir? I don't know how to explain it. Something's wrong. The driver called me, Randy Kimball, but he's not there. And whoever is there, they're trying to look like people, but they're not doing it right. There was a pause on the other end. Sir, have you been drinking tonight? No, I am completely sober. I'm telling you, there's something wrong at that scene. Randy Kimball is missing, and I think he's in danger. Another pause. All right, sir, we'll send a deputy and search and rescue out there. Can you meet them at the turnoff to 308? Yeah, I'm at mile marker 12 right now. I'll wait here. Stay in your vehicle, Mr. Hollister. Deputy should be there in about 20 minutes. I sat there in my truck with the doors locked and the headlights on, waiting, checking my mirrors every 30 seconds. The forest around me felt different now, threatening, like it was full of things, pretending to be other things, practicing, learning. Deputy Sanderson arrived 23 minutes later, light bar flashing. He pulled up next to me, rolled down his window. Mr. Hollister, yeah, that's me. You want to lead me up there? I really did. But I nodded. Yeah, follow me. We drove in convoy back up Forest Service Road 308, deputies light bar painting the trees red and blue. The drive felt safer with him behind me, but that feeling of being watched never went away. We reached mile marker 32 at 8:41 p.m. The Kenworth was still there, 4-ways blinking. My generator was still running, work lights still blazing away, illuminating the clearing in harsh white light. Nobody else was there. I stopped about 50 feet back, and Deputy Sanderson pulled up beside me. We both got out, him with his flashlight and hand on his sidearm, me with my mag light and a desperate hope that I'd imagined the whole thing. But I hadn't. We walked up to the scene together, and everything was exactly as I'd left it. Randy's truck, door open, keys in the ignition, wallet in the cup holder. My toolbox sitting by the transmission access panel, lid open like I had left it, except my main toolbox, the big roller I had left near the front of my truck, was closed now. Latches secured, lid down. I'd left it open. I knew I'd left it open because I'd been reaching for a socket when I heard my name called from the woods. Randy Kimball? Deputy Sanderson called out into the darkness beyond the lights. This is Lemhi County Sheriff's Office. If you can hear me, make your presence known. Silence. He turned to me. You said you saw people here. 2 of them, standing right there. I pointed to where they'd been. One looked like Randy, or something, wearing his clothes. The other one what? I couldn't say it. Couldn't tell him the other one had my face. The other one was just wrong. Like someone trying to look human, but not quite getting it right. Deputy Sanderson gave me a look that I recognized. The look you give someone when you think they're either lying or crazy, but you're trying to stay professional. Let's search the immediate area, he said. We did. For the next hour, we combed through the tree line with flashlights, calling Randy's name, looking for any sign of him. Deputy Sanderson found the footprints I'd seen. Randy's boots, leading from the truck, then stopping. The second set continuing on with that wrong stride. He photographed them with his phone, took measurements, but didn't comment on how strange they looked. We found nothing else. No Randy, no blood, no signs of violence. Just an abandoned logging truck with a driver who'd vanished into thin air. At 10:07 p.m., search and rescue arrived. 3 volunteers, a couple of dogs. They did a more thorough search, expanding the perimeter to a quarter mile in all directions. Nothing. At 11:32 p.m., the search and rescue coordinator called it for the night. "We'll resume at first light," he told Deputy Sanderson. "Get some thermal imaging equipment up here, expand the grid, but I gotta be honest, if he's out here, the dogs would have found him by now." Deputy Sanderson took my statement, got my contact information, let me collect my tools and equipment. I loaded everything back into my truck under the harsh glare of the work lights, and I noticed something. My toolbox, the one that had been closed when I came back, the latches were facing the wrong way, like someone had opened it, looked inside, then closed it and secured it, but rotated it 180 degrees in the process. I mentioned it to Deputy Sanderson. He wrote it down in his notepad, but I could see he thought I was either mistaken or making it up. "We'll follow up on this, Mr. Hollister. In the meantime, if you remember anything else, or if Randy Kimball contacts you, give me a call." He handed me his card. I drove home in silence. Couldn't even turn on the radio. Didn't get back to my place until almost 1 a.m. Sarah was asleep, thank God. I didn't want to try to explain what had happened. Didn't know if I could. The search for Randy Kimball continued for 3 days. They brought in helicopters, ground crews, dogs, thermal imaging, covered an 8-mile radius around the scene. Found nothing. No body. No blood. No torn clothing. No sign that Randy had ever been in those woods at all. The case went to missing persons. Randy's wife filed a report. His photo went up on bulletin boards and websites. The logging company held a small memorial service after 30 days. But nobody found Randy. I went back to the scene exactly 1 week later. Told myself I needed to recover a socket set I'd left behind. But really I just needed to see it again in daylight. Needed to confirm it was real. I pulled up at 11:23 a.m. on a clear October morning, sun streaming through the pine trees, birds singing, completely normal. The Kenworth was gone. Sheriff's office had it towed for evidence, I guess. But my work lights were still there. Generator out of gas, but otherwise undisturbed. My socket said exactly where I'd left it, and one more thing, Randy's wallet, sitting on top of my closed toolbox, in the exact center, like someone had placed it there deliberately. I'd seen Deputy Sanderson put that wallet in an evidence bag, watched him seal it and initial it and put it in his trunk. There's no way it should have been here. I picked it up, was shaking hands, flipped it open. Randy's driver's license, credit cards, $23 cash, all there. And one thing that hadn't been there before, a Polaroid photo. It showed me Greg Hollister on my back under the Kenworth, illuminated by work lights, face visible, taken from about 15 feet away, taken from the tree line on the night I'd been there. I turned it over. Written on the back in pencil, neat block letters, "Came back for tools." I dropped the wallet like it was on fire, backed away from the toolbox, and ran to my truck. I haven't taken a nighttime emergency call since. Haven't driven Forest Service Road 308 at all, day or night. Changed my shop hours. We close at 4 p.m. now. No exceptions. And I tell every driver I work on trucks for the same thing. If you break down on a backcountry road after dark and someone shows up to help who wasn't there when you called, don't trust them. If you hear your own voice calling from the woods, don't answer. And if you ever leave lights on in the middle of nowhere, whatever you do, don't come back for your tools. Some things learn by watching, and some things are getting better at being us. Lookout towers are supposed to keep you safe from fires, Nobody mentions what happens when something figures out you can't leave and starts testing how high it can climb. My name's Travis Bowen, and I spent 11 weeks in the Morgan Peak Lookout Tower in the Sawtooth National Forest during the summer of 2023. It's a job most people don't even know exists anymore. Fire lookout operator. Basically, you live alone in a tiny cabin on top of a 60-foot tower in the middle of nowhere, watching for smoke from wildfires. When you spot something, you radio it in with coordinates, and the Forest Service dispatches crews to deal with it before it becomes a major incident. The pay is not great, about $15 an hour, but you get room and board, and if you're the kind of person who likes solitude, it's damn near perfect. No boss breathing down your neck, no traffic, no noise, just you, the mountains, and the sky. I'd done 2 seasons before 23, loved it, signed up for a 3rd season without hesitation. Should have hesitated. Morgan Peak sits at 8,200 feet elevation, right in the heart of the Sawtooths. The tower itself is a classic lookout design, small 14 by 14 foot cabin mounted on steel legs, accessed by a wooden staircase that zigzags up all 60 feet. Inside, you've got windows on all 4 sides, a propane stove, a cot, a desk with maps and a radio, and an Osborne firefinder. Basically a circular map table with a sight ring you use to pinpoint smoke locations. No electricity, no running water. You haul everything up those stairs. Food, water jugs, propane, supplies. Solar panel charges your radio battery and phone, though cell service is non-existent up there. Closest road is 4 miles down the mountain, and that's not even a real road, just a Forest Service track that needs 4-wheel drive. You're alone. Completely alone. And that's exactly how I liked it. The season runs June through September, depending on fire conditions. I hiked up to Morgan Peak on June 2nd, loaded down with 2 months' worth of food, clothes, and books. The ranger who dropped me off at the trailhead, a guy named William Trask, gave me the standard briefing. Radio check every morning at 0800 hours, he said, going through his clipboard. Weather reports twice daily. If you spot smoke, get coordinates and call it in immediately. Emergency supplies are stocked in the cabin. First aid kit, flares, backup radio. If something goes wrong and you need evacuation, we can get a helicopter up there in about 40 minutes, weather permitting. What usually goes wrong? I asked. Trask shrugged. Medical emergencies, mostly. Guy 2 years ago broke his ankle coming down the stairs. Had to airlift him out. Before that, someone had a severe allergic reaction to a bee sting. Mostly, though, the biggest danger is going stir crazy. 11 weeks alone will mess with your head if you're not careful. I assured him I'd be fine. I'd read probably 60 books during my last season, taught myself basic guitar, got in the best shape of my life doing bodyweight exercises. I knew how to handle the isolation. The hike up took me about 3 hours, gaining 2,200 feet of elevation through thick pine forest that gradually thinned out to alpine meadows near the summit. The tower appeared through the trees like something out of a Firewatch video game. Tall, angular, windows catching the afternoon sun. I climbed the stairs, unlocked the cabin, and stepped inside. Everything was exactly as I remembered. The firefinder in the center, maps tacked to the walls, the little propane stove in the corner. The previous occupant had left the place clean, swept, ready for the next person. There was even a note on the desk. Good luck. Stay vigilant. Watch the tree line at night. JM. I figured JM was being poetic, atmospheric, trying to spook the next guy. I crumpled the note and tossed it in the trash. The first 4 weeks were perfect. I fell into an easy routine. Wake up at 6 a.m., make coffee on the propane stove, do a full 360 scan with binoculars, check weather, radio into the ranger station at 8, spend the day reading, scanning for smoke, doing maintenance around the tower, Evenings, I'd sit on the catwalk outside the cabin and watch the sunset paint the sawtooths in orange and purple. I saw maybe 6 hikers total in those first 4 weeks. Distant figures on the trails below, moving through the meadows. I'd watch them through binoculars sometimes, just to see other humans. They never came up to the tower. Most people don't even know it's here, unless they're specifically looking for it. Week 5 is when things started feeling off. It was July 9th, a Tuesday, around 2 p.m. Hot day, mid-80s, even at this elevation, not a cloud in the sky. I was doing my hourly scan, sweeping the binoculars across the visible terrain, when I spotted a hiker on the Redfish Lake Trail about 2 miles northeast of my position. Male, looked like, wearing a green jacket and a dark baseball cap, hiking alone, moving south toward the lake. Nothing unusual about that. I watched him for maybe 30 seconds, just killing time, and then continued my scan. When I came back around to the northeast quadrant about 10 minutes later, I saw him again, still on the same trail, but he barely moved, maybe 100 yards in 10 minutes. For a hiker on relatively flat terrain that was weirdly slow, I focused the binoculars, dialed in the magnification. He was standing still now, just standing in the middle of the trail, facing my direction. Looking at the tower, I couldn't make out details at this distance. Maybe 2 miles. It's too far to see facial features clearly, but his posture was strange. Too straight, arms hanging at his sides, not moving, not shifting weight, just standing there like a mannequin. I watched for maybe 5 minutes. He didn't move. Then he turned and walked off the trail into the trees, disappearing from view. Weird, but not alarming. People do strange things in the woods. Maybe he was looking at the tower because it's an interesting landmark. Maybe he was taking a break. Maybe he realized he was going the wrong direction and cut through the trees to reach a different trail. I went back to my book. At 4 p.m., I did another scan. Checked the northeast quadrant first, just out of curiosity. Same hiker, same green jacket, same dark cap, standing on a completely different trail now. The Alpine Creek Trail, about 3 miles northwest of the tower. That didn't make sense. To get from Redfish Lake Trail to Alpine Creek Trail in 2 hours would require either a very fast hike on a connecting trail I wasn't aware of, or I checked my map. There was no connecting trail. You'd have to bushwhack through dense forest and cross a creek. Possible, but why? I focused the binoculars again. He was standing still, facing the tower. Same posture, same unnatural stillness. I felt something cold settle in my chest. This wasn't right. I grabbed my radio, sawtooth base. This is Morgan Peak. Radio check. Over. Trask's voice came back immediately. Morgan Peak. Sawtooth base. Read you loud and clear. Over. Hey, brief question, I said. You got any reports of hikers in the area? Acting strange? Maybe lost or disoriented? Negative, Morgan Peak. Nothing on our end. What are you seeing? There's a hiker, green jacket, dark cap. I've spotted him on 2 different trails in the past couple hours. He's just standing there both times, staring at the tower, not moving. There was a pause. Could be 2 different people, Trask suggested. Lots of folks wear green jackets. Yeah, maybe, I said, not convinced. Just seemed odd. Keep an eye on it. If you see anyone in distress or behaving erratically, let us know and we'll send someone to check it out. Copy that. Morgan Peak. Out. I spent the next hour scanning all the visible trails, looking for the green jacket guy. Didn't see him again that day. But that night, around 11 p.m., I heard something on the stairs. I was lying in my cot, reading by headlamp, when I heard the wooden steps creak. Distinct sound. Someone's weight on the 3rd or 4th step from the bottom. I sat up, killed my headlamp, listened. Another creak. Fifth step now, maybe. Someone was climbing the tower. "Hello?" I called out. "Who's there?" The creaking stopped. I waited in the dark, heart pounding, listening. Nothing. No response. No more footsteps. After about 2 minutes, I turned my headlamp back on, grabbed my mag light, and opened the cabin door. The catwalk outside the cabin wrapped around all four sides, with the staircase descending from the southeast corner. I walked around to the stairs and shined my light down. Empty. No one on the stairs. No one on the ground below. But I'd heard it. I know I'd heard it. I went back inside, locked the door. Not that the lock would do much. It was just a simple latch, and tried to convince myself it was the wind or the tower settling or maybe an animal bumping against the base, except there was no wind that night, and the tower's been standing for 60 years. It doesn't just settle randomly. And what animal climbs wooden stairs? I didn't sleep well. The next morning, I did my radio check and mentioned the footsteps to Trask. "Probably a bear," he said. "They're curious. Sometimes they'll investigate structures." "Do bears climb stairs?" "They can, but they usually don't. More likely it was thermal expansion of the wood, Travis. Gets hot during the day, cools off at night, makes all kinds of noises." I wanted to believe that. Over the next 3 days, I saw the green jacket hiker 4 more times. Different trails, different locations, always at least 2 miles away, always standing still and facing the tower. On July 13th, I saw him on 3 trails simultaneously. I was doing my noon scan when I spotted him on the Goat Creek Trail to the east. Then I panned northwest and saw him on the Alpine Creek Trail. Then I checked south, and there he was again on the Pettit Lake Trail. Same green jacket, same dark cap, same unnatural stillness. 3 places at once, unless there were 3 different people wearing identical clothes and standing in identical poses staring at my tower. Something was very wrong. I radioed it in. Trask said he'd send a ranger to check the trails the next day. That night, the footsteps came back. This time they climbed higher. I counted 15 steps, maybe 20, halfway up the tower. I opened the door, shined my light down the stairs. Nothing. But then I heard my own voice. "Hello? Who's there?" Same words I'd said the night before. Same tone. Same inflection. Coming from the ground below the tower, near the base. I pointed my light down there, but the angle was wrong. I couldn't see the ground directly beneath me from the catwalk. "Who's there?" my voice repeated. "Who's there? Who's there?" Like a recording, played back multiple times. I went back inside, locked the door, and didn't open it again until sunrise. Trask called me at 8 a.m. for radio check. "Ranger checked the trails yesterday evening," he said. "Didn't see anyone matching that description. No hikers reported seeing anyone unusual either." "What about last night?" I asked. "Did you hear anything on the radio? Any transmissions?" "Negative." "Why?" I heard my own voice, outside the cabin, repeating things I'd said. Long pause. "Travis, are you feeling okay? You getting enough sleep?" "I'm fine, I know what I heard." "It's week 6, man. Isolation can do weird things to your perception. Trust me, I've seen it before. Guys start hearing things, seeing things. It's normal. This isn't that. Maybe take a day off from scanning. Rest. Read a book. Cook yourself a good meal. You're probably just stressed." I didn't argue, but I knew what I'd heard. That afternoon, I saw the green jacket hiker at the base of my tower, not 2 miles away on a distant trail. Right there, maybe 100 feet from the bottom of the stairs, standing at the tree line. I grabbed my binoculars, hands shaking, and focused. The green jacket was too big. Arms hung past where hands should be. The baseball cap was pulled low, but I could see the bottom of the face now, except there wasn't a face, just shadow under the brim, deeper than shadow should be. And the body proportions were wrong. Too tall, too thin, shoulders too wide. It stood there for maybe 10 minutes while I watched from the cabin window, not moving, just staring up at me. Then it walked backward into the trees. Not turned around and walked, just stepped backward, smoothly, unnaturally, disappearing into the forest. I radioed Trask immediately, told him what I saw. "I'm pulling you out," he said. "I'll have someone up there tomorrow morning to relieve you." "No," I said. "No, I'm not leaving. Travis, you're clearly under stress. I'm not imagining this. There's something here. Something's been watching me, and now it's getting closer. If I leave, you'll just send someone else up here, and they'll have no idea what they're dealing with." "What are you dealing with, Travis? What do you think's happening?" I didn't know how to explain it without sounding insane. "Just give me 2 more days. If I still want out after that, I'll hike down myself. Deal?" Reluctantly, he agreed. That night, July 14th, the thing climbed all the way to the top. I heard every step. Slow, deliberate, creaking up the wooden stairs. I sat at my desk with my mag light in one hand and a flare gun in the other, watching the door. The footsteps reached the catwalk, walked around the east side of the cabin, stopped at the window. I couldn't see anything, just darkness outside, my reflection in the glass. Then I heard tapping, fingernails on glass. Tap, 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 slow, rhythmic. Moving to the next window. Tap, 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 next window. Tap, tap, tap. It circled the entire cabin, tapping on each window, and I sat there, frozen, listening to it move around me. When it reached the door, it stopped. The latch rattled. Something testing it, trying to figure out how it worked. And my own voice, right outside the door, inches away. "Hello? Who's there? Who's there? I'm fine. I know what I heard. Hello?" A collection of things I'd said over the past week, stitched together. The latch rattled again. I stood up, flare gun raised, pointing at the door. "I can see you," my voice said from outside. "I'm not leaving. There's something here." The latch clicked open. The door swung inward slowly. Nothing there, just darkness and the catwalk and the stairs beyond. But I could smell it, that wet fur and copper smell, stronger now, mixed with something else. Pine, sap, soil, decay. "Show yourself," I said, my real voice shaking. Something moved in the darkness just beyond the doorway. Tall, spindly, wrong proportions. I fired the flare gun. The flare shot out in a brilliant red burst, 20,000 candle power, and whatever was on the catwalk recoiled. I saw it clearly for just a second. Maybe 7 feet tall, wearing the green jacket, like a loose costume over something that wasn't remotely human-shaped. The baseball cap perched on a head that was too elongated, too narrow. No face, just smooth darkness under the brim. Arms that bent wrong, too many joints. The flare clattered on the metal catwalk, burning bright red, and the thing backed away from it, moving down the stairs with unnatural speed, keeping to the darkness beyond the flare's light. I slammed the door shut, relatched it, and shoved my cot against it for good measure. The flare burned for 15 minutes. When it finally died out, I heard the thing climb back up, but this time, it didn't try the door. It just sat on the catwalk outside, moving occasionally, scraping against the metal, waiting. It stayed there all night. At 6 a.m., first light, I heard it climb back down the stairs, heard it retreat into the forest. I radioed Trask. At 8, "I'm coming down," I said. "Today. Right now." "What happened?" "It climbed the tower. It opened the door. I hit it with a flare and it backed off. But it waited outside all night." "Travis, listen to me. You're experiencing severe isolation-induced paranoia. This is a medical situation now. I'm sending a helicopter." "No helicopter." I'll hike down. I'll be at the trailhead by noon. Do not leave that tower until we can get someone up there to escort you down. That's an order. It's not safe here anymore. Whatever this thing is, it's figured out I can't leave during the night. It's testing how high I can climb. Tonight it'll probably come inside. I started packing my essential gear: water, food, radio, first aid kit, left everything else. At 8:45 a.m., I opened the cabin door and looked out. Clear day, sunny, birds singing, completely normal. I checked the catwalk with my binoculars, looking for any sign of what had been there last night. Scratch marks, deep gouges in the metal railing, 4 parallel lines, like something with claws had gripped it. Fresh marks, metal still bright where it had been scored. I took the stairs down fast, pack on my back, flare gun in my belt, mag light in hand even though it was broad daylight. Reached the bottom and started hiking down the trail at a near run. Made it maybe half a mile when I saw it standing on the trail ahead of me. Green jacket, dark cap, tall and wrong, blocking my path. I stopped, pulled out the flare gun, reloaded it with shaking hands. Get out of my way, I said. It tilted its head, mimicking curiosity, learning. Then it stepped off the trail into the trees. I waited for a full minute before continuing forward, watching the forest on both sides, expecting it to come at me from the woods. But it didn't. I passed the spot where it had been standing and kept going. At the 1-mile mark, I saw it again. Behind me now, following on the trail, maybe 50 yards back, maintaining distance, observing. It kept walking, it kept following. This continued for the entire 4-mile hike. It stayed 50 yards back, never closing the distance, never leaving, just following, watching, learning how I moved, how I reacted. When I finally reached the trailhead, Travis was waiting by his truck, looking worried. Travis, thank God. Are you? Don't look behind me, I said quietly. But there's something on the trail about 50 yards back. When I get in your truck, get us out of here fast. Trask looked past me anyway, squinting at the trail. I don't see anything. It's there, trust me. I climbed into the passenger seat. Trask got behind the wheel, started the engine. As we pulled away, I looked back through the rear window. It was standing at the trailhead now, right where the trail met the parking area. Green jacket, dark cap, watching us drive away. It didn't follow past the trailhead, didn't step onto the dirt road, just stood there at the boundary between wilderness and civilization, watching until we rounded a curve and I lost sight of it. What the hell happened up there? Trask asked. I told him everything. The green jacket hiker on multiple trails, the footsteps on the stairs, my voice being repeated back to me. The thing that climbed to the catwalk and tested the door. He listened without interrupting, but I could see the skepticism on his face. We'll send a crew up to investigate, he said finally. Check the tower, look for signs of wildlife activity. It's not wildlife. Travis, I've been a ranger for 22 years. I've seen what isolation does to people. I've talked guys down from worse than this. Check the catwalk railing. There are scratch marks, fresh ones, 4 parallel gouges. I will, but I'm also recommending you take the rest of the season off. Medical leave, get some rest. I didn't argue. I was done with Morgan Peak. The Forest Service sent 2 rangers up to investigate the tower on July 16th. They found the scratch marks on the railing, exactly as I described. Claw marks, consistent with a large animal, possibly a mountain lion. They also found tracks around the base of the tower, human-sized boot prints, but the stride was too long, spacing too wide. Same issue I'd seen with the prints back on Forest Service Road 308 when I'd heard about that mechanic story. The rangers recommended the tower be closed for the rest of the season due to increased predator activity in the area. No one's been assigned to Morgan Peak since I got a job with the Forest Service doing trail maintenance, ground level work, always within radio range of other crews, never alone. I still love the mountains, but I don't do solitude anymore. And I tell every new lookout operator the same thing that note on my desk said. Watch the tree line at night. If you see someone standing there in the dark, staring at your tower, get out before they figure out the stairs. Because some things don't climb to attack, they climb to learn. And once they learn how to reach you, there's nowhere high enough to hide. The Sawtooth Wilderness is beautiful, but beauty doesn't mean safe, and isolation doesn't mean alone. Sometimes it just means you're the only one watching, while something else is watching back. The Snake River runs cold and deep through southern Idaho, cold enough that things can move underneath without breaking the surface, deep enough that you don't see them coming until they're already in the boat. My name's Kyle Brennan, and I've been guiding fishing trips on the Snake River for 8 years, based out of Twin Falls, mostly working the stretch between Shoshone Falls and the Hagerman Valley. It's gorgeous water, clear, cold, fed by springs and snowmelt from the mountains, rainbow trout, brown trout, smallmouth bass, sturgeon if you know where to look. I've taken out hundreds of clients over the years, families, couples, solo fishermen, corporate groups, day trips, sunset trips, and my specialty, night fishing. Night fishing is different, peaceful. The river changes character after dark. Sounds carry differently across the water. The current feels stronger somehow. And the fish, the big ones, the smart ones that avoid daytime pressure, they come out to feed when the sun goes down. Brown trout especially. They're nocturnal hunters, and if you want to catch a real trophy, you fish for them at night. I charge extra for night trips, $250 for 4 hours, all gear included. Most guides won't do it. Too risky, too liability heavy, not worth the hassle. But I grew up on this river. I know every rock, every rapid, every calm pool. I've been running it in the dark since I was 16. It's second nature to me. Or it was, until August 23rd, 2023. I had a client that night, a guy named Patterson, first name Roger, from Boise, 50-something, worked in insurance, wanted to catch a big brown trout to mount on his office wall. He'd called me 2 weeks prior, specifically requested a night trip, said he'd heard I was the best. We met at the Pillar Falls boat ramp at 7:30 p.m. Sun was just starting to set, sky going orange and purple over the canyon rim. Roger showed up in a brand new truck, wearing expensive waders and a fishing vest that still had creases from the package. Definitely not a regular fisherman, but his money was good and he seemed nice enough. "Evening," I said, shaking his hand. "You ready to catch some fish?" "Absolutely. This is my first time night fishing, so I'm in your hands." "No problem. I'll walk you through everything." "You ever been on the Snake before?" "Once, maybe 10 years ago. Day trip with my son." "Well, it's a whole different river at night. Darker, obviously, but also quieter. We'll drift some of the deeper pools, use streamers and big nymphs. Browns are aggressive after dark, so if we get into them, it'll be fast action." I helped him load into my drift boat, and a 16-foot clack-craft designed for rivers, stable and maneuverable. I had all my gear already stowed: rods, tackle boxes, net, anchor, spotlight, first aid kit, radio, life jackets, everything secured and organized from years of doing this. Roger climbed into the front seat. I took the rower's position in the middle, and we pushed off from the ramp at 7:52 p.m. The Snake River through this section runs through a deep basalt canyon, walls rising 200 feet on either side, black volcanic rock carved over millennia. The water is about 100 yards wide here, moving at a steady pace but not dangerously fast. Plenty of deep pools where big fish hold, undercut banks where they hide during the day. As we drifted downstream, I gave Roger the standard safety brief. "Stay seated while we're moving. Let me know if you need to adjust position. If you hook into something big, let the rod do the work. Life jackets on at all times. Radios for emergencies only. What kind of emergencies, he asked. Medical stuff, mostly. Heart attacks, allergic reactions, that kind of thing. Had a guy break his arm once when he slipped getting back in the boat. But honestly, in 8 years, I've only had to call for help twice. This is pretty safe as river trips go. The sun disappeared behind the canyon rim around 8:15 p.m., and the temperature dropped immediately. It goes from 75 degrees to 55 in about 20 minutes once you lose direct sunlight down in the canyon. Roger pulled on a fleece jacket, and I clicked on my headlamp. "We'll fish the sluice pool first," I said, pulling on the oars to position us. Deep hole, about 15 feet, good structure. I pulled some nice fish out of here. I helped Roger rig up his rod. 9-weight fly rod, sink tip line, big black streamer tied on the end. Showed him how to cast it, strip it back, make it look like a wounded bait fish. Just cast toward that dark shadow near the bank. I instructed. Let it sink for a few seconds, then strip it back in short pulls. If something hits it, you'll know. Don't jerk the rod. Just strip, set, and hold on. Roger made a decent cast, better than I expected for someone who clearly hadn't done this much. The streamer plopped into the water near the undercut bank, and he started stripping it back. Nothing on the first cast, or the second, or the third, but on the fourth cast, something absolutely hammered it. Roger's rod bent double, line screaming off the reel, and he let out a surprised laugh. "Oh man, that's a good fish. Keep your rod tip up. Let him run. Don't force it." The fish made a strong run downstream, taking maybe 30 yards of line before turning. I could see the line cutting through the water in my headlamp beam, zigzagging as the fish tried to shake the hook. Roger fought it well for a beginner. Kept the pressure steady, didn't panic. After about 3 minutes, I saw the fish roll on the surface. Big brown trout, maybe 24 inches, thick and heavy. "That's a beauty," I said, grabbing the net. "Bring him in close, nice and easy." Roger guided the fish toward the boat, and I netted it on the first try. Lifted it out of the water, and damn, it was a good one. 25 inches, probably 5 or 6 pounds. Fat belly, hook jaw, beautiful golden brown coloring with red spots. "Hell yes," Roger was grinning ear to ear. "That's what I'm talking about." I unhooked it, held it up for a quick photo with Roger's phone, and slipped it back in the water to revive it. Held it gently in the current until it kicked and swam away strong. "Catch and release?" Roger asked, sounding disappointed. "Yeah, sorry. This section's catch and release only for browns. But I got some great photos. You can get that blown up for your office." He seemed satisfied with that. We drifted downstream, fishing a few more pools. Roger caught 2 more browns in the next hour, both around 18 inches. Good fish, solid action. He was having a great time. By 9:45 p.m., it was fully dark. No moon yet, just stars overhead and the ambient glow from Twin Falls, way downstream, maybe 6 miles away. My headlamp and Roger's provided the only real light, narrow beams cutting through the darkness. The river sounds different at night. During the day, there's background noise, birds, insects, wind, distant traffic. At night, it's just the water, the constant rush and gurgle of current, the occasional splash of a feeding fish, the creak of the oars in the locks. We were drifting through a stretch called the Cathedral section. Walls on both sides rise almost straight up, narrow canyon, deep water, good fishing, but spooky at night. Sounds echo weird off the rock walls. Roger was re-rigging his line when I heard splashing upstream. Not fish splashing, something bigger, multiple splashes, like something moving through the shallows. I turned my headlamp upstream, beam cutting through the dark. Nothing. Just the river, black and smooth. You hear that? Roger asked. Yeah, probably a beaver or river otter. They're active at night. We kept drifting. Roger made another cast, and I heard my daughter's voice. Daddy? Daddy, where are you? Clear as day. Emma's voice. My 8-year-old daughter, calling from somewhere on the water, maybe 50 yards downstream. I felt ice run down my spine. Emma was at home in Twin Falls with her mother. I dropped her off that afternoon after my custody day. There was no possible way she was out here on the river. Did you hear that? I asked Roger quietly. Hear what? A voice. A kid's voice. No, I didn't hear anything. The splashing came again. Closer now. Multiple splashes. Rhythmic. Like something with 4 legs moving through water. I spun my headlamp toward the sound. Still nothing visible. Daddy, I'm scared. Come get me. Emma's voice again. Clearer now. Closer. Coming from the left bank, from the shadows near the rock wall. That, I said to Roger. You had to hear that. I heard something. Maybe an echo. It wasn't an echo. It was my daughter's voice. Perfect mimicry. The exact tone she uses when she's frightened and wants me to come help her. But Emma had never been on this river. She'd never seen this canyon. There was no way for anyone or anything to know what she sounded like, unless it had heard me talking about her. And I hadn't mentioned Emma once to Roger. Kyle, help me. I fell in the water. The voice was coming from behind us now, upstream, where we'd just been. Roger turned in his seat, shining his headlamp back the way we'd come. Is someone actually in the water? He asked, sounding worried. No, I said firmly. No, there's no one in the water. Something's wrong here. I started pulling hard on the oars, trying to move us downstream faster, away from the voices. Daddy, please, it's so cold. Emma's voice, crying now, desperate. My hands were shaking on the oars, every instinct screaming at me to turn the boat around. Go find her. Help her. But I knew, Emma wasn't here. What the hell is going on? Roger asked, and I could hear the fear creeping into his voice. I don't know, but we're getting out of this canyon. Hold on. I pulled harder, navigating by memory and the faint starlight, trying to get us through the cathedral section and back to wider water where I'd feel less trapped. And that's when I felt something bump the bottom of the boat. Solid impact from underneath, hard enough to rock us slightly. Roger felt it too. Did we hit a rock? No. We're in 15 feet of water here. No rocks. Another bump. Harder this time. And then I heard Roger's voice. Not from Roger. He was sitting right in front of me. I could see him clearly in my headlamp beam. But his voice came from the water to our right, from the darkness beyond the light's reach. Kyle, help me. I fell in the water. The exact same words Emma's voice had used, but in Roger's voice now. Same inflection, same desperate tone. Roger went rigid. That was me. That was my voice. What the fuck is that? Something splashed near the right side of the boat. Big splash. Like a person thrashing in deep water. I spun my headlamp toward it and caught a glimpse of something pale breaking the surface. Not fish pale, skin pale. A hand reaching up from the water, fingers too long, too thin, grabbing at the air. Then it was gone, slipping back under, with barely a ripple. Did you see that? Roger's voice was high, panic now. I saw it. Listen to me, Roger. Do not lean over the side of this boat. Do not put your hands in the water. Stay in the center of your seat and hold on. I was rowing hard now, faster than safe, risking hitting submerged rocks, but not caring. I needed to get us out of this narrow section, back to open water, back to civilization. Roger's voice came from the left side now, multiplied 3 or 4 versions speaking at once. Kyle, help me, Kyle, help me, Kyle, help me. I fell in the water, I fell in the water. Where are you? Where are you? Overlapping, echoing, coming from multiple points around the boat. Then Emma's voice joined in. Daddy, please, it's so cold, it's so cold. Come get me, come get me. Both voices spiraling together, surrounding us, and I realized what it was doing. It was learning, testing, trying different voices, different words, seeing what got a reaction, experimenting with mimicry, the way a child experiments with language. But this was no child. Something large moved in the water beside the boat, keeping pace with us. I could see the bow wave it created, a V-shaped ripple moving through the dark water at the same speed we were traveling. Too big to be a fish, too fast to be a beaver. It surfaced briefly. I caught a glimpse of a head, maybe. Wrong shape, too elongated. Eyes that reflected my headlamp being back green-yellow, like an animal's eyes, but positioned wrong, too far apart. And it dove again. Roger was breathing fast, nearly hyperventilating. What is that thing? What the hell is that? I don't know. Just stay calm. We're almost out of the canyon. The voices kept coming, experimenting now, mixing words and tones. My daughter's voice, saying Roger's words. Kyle, help me, I fell in the water. Roger's voice saying my daughter's words. Daddy, please, it's so cold. My own voice now joining the chorus. Stay calm, we're almost out. Stay calm, we're almost out. Words I just said played back to me in perfect replication. It was listening, recording, learning to be us. Something grabbed the stern of the boat. I felt it through the oars. Sudden drag, the boat slowing, pulling backward against my rowing, like we'd caught on something, but there was nothing to catch on in deep water. I looked back, shined my headlamp at the stern, hands gripping the transom, multiple hands, 4 or 5 of them, pale and dripping, fingers too long with too many joints. They weren't pulling the boat under, just holding on, creating drag, slowing us down. Row! Roger screamed. Go! 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 I was already pulling as hard as I could, muscles burning, trying to break free from whatever had latched onto the stern. The hands held for maybe 10 seconds, then released all at once. The boat lurched forward from my rowing, and I nearly lost an oar. Behind us, I heard splashing. Multiple splashes. More than one thing in the water now. And then I heard my ex-wife's voice. Michelle, Emma's mother. Kyle, where's Emma? Did you bring her home? Kyle, answer me. Where's our daughter? I'd had that exact conversation with Michelle on the phone 2 days ago. She'd called while I was driving home from a trip, asked if I'd dropped Emma off yet. This thing had somehow heard that conversation, or heard me recount it, or no, that was impossible. Unless I had been talking to another guide at the boat ramp yesterday, mentioned Emma, mentioned the custody schedule, mentioned Michelle being worried about Emma being around the water. Had this thing been listening then? Had it been close enough to hear? How long had it been following me? We're clear, I said to Roger, trying to keep my voice steady. The canyon widens up ahead. Once we're in open water, we'll be okay. How do you know that? I didn't. I was guessing, hoping, praying, but the canyon walls were pulling back now, the river widening, and the voices were getting fainter, like they were staying behind in the narrow section. One last time, all the voices together, mixing and overlapping. Daddy, Kyle, Roger, help me, I fell, where are you? It's so cold. Emma, Michelle, please come get me. Stay calm, we're almost out. A grotesque mashup of everything it had heard, losing coherence now, just noise and mimicry without understanding. And silence, just the river, just the oars, just Roger's ragged breathing. We drifted in silence for maybe 5 minutes. I kept expecting something to surface, kept watching the water, but nothing came. The river had opened up to maybe 200 yards wide here, banks farther away, more moonlight now as the moon rose over the canyon rim. I could see better, could navigate easier. What the fuck was that? Roger finally asked. I don't know. Was it a person? No, it wasn't a person. Then what? I thought about the stories I'd heard growing up, native legends, about water spirits, about things that lived in deep rivers and lakes, shapeshifters, mimics, things that learned human voices to lure prey. I'd always dismissed those stories as folklore, campfire tales. But I just heard my daughter's voice coming from something in the water. I'd seen hands that weren't human hands gripping my boat. I think it was something that lives in the river, I said slowly. Something that's learned to imitate us. That's insane. Yeah, but you heard it too. You heard your own voice. Roger had no response to that. We continued downstream in silence. I was aiming for the Miller's Crossing takeout, about 2 miles ahead. Public boat ramp, parking lot with lights, highway access, civilization. As we approached the takeout point, I saw something that made my blood run cold. A figure standing on the boat ramp, illuminated by the parking lot lights, wearing waders and a fishing vest. Looked exactly like Roger. Same build, same clothes, same stance. The real Roger, sitting in front of me in the boat. Saw it too. That's me. That's me standing there. The figure on the ramp waved, friendly gesture, beckoning us to land. Don't look at it, I said. We're not landing here. What? Why not? Because that's not you. And whatever it is, it got here ahead of us, which means it knows where we're going. Then where the hell do we land? Next ramp. Bull. Another 4 miles. Kyle, I want off this river now. So do I. But I'm not landing anywhere near that thing. We drifted past the Miller's Crossing ramp, giving it a wide berth, staying in the center of the river. The Roger figure watched us pass, then started walking along the bank, keeping pace with the boat, following us downstream. It matched our speed perfectly for about half a mile, staying in the shallows near the bank, walking through water that should have been waist deep but somehow only coming up to its knees. Wrong proportions again. Legs too long. Weight depth wrong. Then it stopped, standing in the current, and I heard Roger's voice one more time, calling across the water. Thanks for the trip, Kyle. Great fishing tonight. I'll recommend you to all my friends. The exact words you'd expect a satisfied client to say. It was learning how to end encounters, how to mimic normal human behavior. We kept rowing. The figure didn't follow past that point, just stood there in the shallows, lit by starlight, watching us disappear downstream. We reached the Bull boat ramp at 11:37 p.m. I'd radioed ahead on my emergency channel, told the sheriff's office I was bringing a boat in and needed assistance. Didn't explain why, just said it was an emergency. 2 deputies were waiting when we landed. So was an EMT unit, just in case. Roger practically fell out of the boat when we hit the ramp, scrambling onto dry land like he was escaping a sinking ship. I secured the boat and climbed out on shaking legs. You folks okay? One of the deputies asked. Dispatcher said you reported an emergency. I tried to figure out how to explain what had happened without sounding insane. We encountered something on the river, in the cathedral section, something that mimicked our voices, called out using sounds it shouldn't have been able to make. The deputies exchanged glances. Like an echo, one asked. No, like something that had recorded our voices and was playing them back. It also contacted the boat, grabbed onto the stern. We saw hands. Human hands? No, not human. More glances between the deputies. Sir, have you been drinking tonight? I'm completely sober. Roger, back me up here. Roger was sitting on the ground, head in his hands. I heard it too. It used my voice. It used his daughter's voice. I don't know what it was, but it was real. The deputies took statements from both of us, wrote everything down, radioed to the sheriff. I could tell they thought we were either lying or hallucinating, but they went through the motions professionally. At 1 a.m., after giving our statements, Roger paid me in cash for the trip, insisted on it, even though I tried to refuse, and left in his truck without another word. I never heard from him again. Never got a review, never got a reference, never got a call. He wanted nothing more to do with me or the river. The sheriff's office sent a boat patrol through the cathedral section the next day. They didn't find anything unusual. No signs of wildlife activity, no evidence of anyone in distress, no explanation for what we'd experienced. But they did find something at Miller's Crossing, footprints in the mud near the boat ramp. Boot prints, same size as Roger's boots, but the stride was wrong, too long. Each print sank about 6 inches into the soft mud, deeper than a person's weight should create, like something very heavy trying to walk like something light. The prints led from the water's edge up to the parking lot, then disappeared on the pavement. Whatever had stood on that ramp waiting for us had come from the river, had learned to walk on land, had figured out where boat ramps were and what they meant. It was adapting. I kept guiding for another 2 weeks after that, but only day trips. Refused all-night fishing bookings, told clients I was discontinuing that service for personal reasons. Lost a lot of business. Lost my reputation as the go-to night fishing guide. But I couldn't go back on that river after dark. Couldn't shake the memory of my daughter's voice calling from the water. Couldn't stop thinking about those hands gripping the stern of my boat. On September 7th, I sold my drift boat, listed all my night fishing gear on Craigslist, took a job at a sporting goods store in Twin Falls. Regular hours, indoors, no water. I still fish sometimes, casting from the bank, daylight only, never alone. And I tell every fisherman I meet the same thing. If you're on the water at night and you hear someone calling for help, don't assume it's human. If something in the water knows your name or your voice or the voice of someone you love, get to shore immediately. And if you ever see yourself standing on the bank watching your own boat go by, that's not you. That's something that's learned to wear your shape. The Snake River is beautiful. The fishing is incredible. But the river is old and deep and cold enough to hide things we're not meant to see. Things that have lived there longer than we have. Things that are learning how to be us. And the more time we spend on the water, the more time they have to study. Some rivers run to the ocean, some rivers run through history, and some rivers run through something else entirely. Something that watches from underneath, something that takes notes. I don't guide anymore, I don't fish at night, and I never ever answer when I hear my daughter's voice calling from the water, because Emma's safe at home. She's never been on the Snake River, and whatever knows her voice learned it from me. If these 3 stories from the Idaho wilderness have kept you awake, staring at your ceiling, wondering what else is out there, learning to be human, you're exactly where you should be. Hit that subscribe button because there are hundreds more encounters like these waiting in the dark. Turn on notifications so you never miss when something crosses the line from folklore into reality. Drop a comment below and tell me, have you ever heard your own voice calling from somewhere you weren't? Have you ever seen yourself standing where you know you couldn't be? Share your story. Let's figure out what's watching us together. And remember, some things don't attack. They study, and they're getting better at passing for human every single day.